Shamoun sitting in an airport. An
Yes.
atheist recognizes you and he sits next to you.
Yeah.
And he goes to you, convince me that there's a God and convince me that he's your God.
Oh,
Atheism now. What are you doing? What's your first
well, yeah.
step?
My first step is say, here's how you're going to prove that the God of Christianity doesn't exist. Falsify the origin of the church. What do I mean? People underappreciate the fact that the church began by claiming a dead man came to life and was made immortal. Paul says, if Christ has not been raised, give up your faith, go party. So if tomorrow they were, and it's never going to happen because Jesus is alive, he's almighty, he is alive, he's reality. Well, let's say tomorrow they found the bones of our Lord and they proved it. Father would now have to stop being a, because Paul said, and me and Father would go to the nightclub, right? I mean, it's not going to happen, so don't worry about it, Father. Abuna, it's not going to happen.
He's not
Jesus is
worried.
alive. No,
Believe me,
Jesus is alive.
he's not worried. He didn't come this
No,
far, Sam, to worry about
no,
that
but
one.
you know what I'm
No.
saying? Paul said
Yes.
it in 1 Corinthians 15.
Mhm.
He said, if Christ has not been raised, your faith is useless. He says in 1 Corinthians 15,
Mm.
he goes, eat, drink, and be merry. Go party because tomorrow you die. So
But
my
Sam, you're
question,
starting with a Christian God. He's telling you, I don't even believe that a God exists.
no, that's what I'm saying. So it's okay. I'm not trying to convince you of just the Christian God. I want you to convince me to be an atheist by explaining away the origin of the church.
Mm.
Give me some naturalistic explanation for the origin of the church, because the followers of Christ claimed that man who was beaten, bloodied, buried, appeared to them alive physically, and the tomb was discovered empty, and that appearance convinced them he's now alive physically, and they're willing to be killed for that claim.
Skinned
So again,
alive, crucified upside down.
yes, yeah, that's what. So convince me how the church began by giving me an explanation that rules out the resurrection, because any explanation you give will not account for the church. See, this is why people underappreciate the church's existence. History has attested that when you have false messianic claimants, when they're killed, their movement dies, or their followers are killed with them, and that's it. I mean, here, I'll give you an example. Bar Kokhba, Bar Chosiva. He was a second century messianic claimant
Mm.
who led an uprising against the Romans. And there was a rabbi named Rabbi Akiva who called him Bar Kokhba, meaning the son of the star, a messianic title, because he thought, oh, that's our Messiah. It's around 130s AD. He got vanquished and crushed like a grape. Does anyone talk about him?
Mm-mm.
Rabbi Akiva said his name was Bar Chosiva or Chosiba. He goes, that's Bar Kokhba, the son of the star, because in Numbers 24:17 talks about the star rising, and they take that as Messiah. Go, here he is, the Messiah. He got crushed like a grape. No one hears about him. So if Jesus was killed and buried, how do you explain for the origin of the church? And on top of that, another piece of evidence. Even someone like Bart Ehrman, who is an atheist, but as an historian will tell you, First Corinthians, First Corinthians, Paul wrote it around 55 AD. 55 AD. 55 AD, that's within 20 years of Jesus' resurrection. In First Corinthians chapter 1, verse 2. See, these are things we underappreciate as Christians. He's talking to Greeks, Gentiles, along with Jews, and he says that they are known for, all of them known for, calling on the name of our Lord Jesus Christ, both their Lord and ours. Greetings to all whom everywhere call upon the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Now, why is that astonishing? See, when we read it, yeah, we know he's God. Understand the historical context. What would lead a group of monotheistic Jews, Paul being one of them, his conversion itself has to be explained, to call on a Jew who less than 20 years earlier had been killed and buried, and now call on his name, when that phrase, calling on the name, is an Old Testament formula where Old Testament saints called on the name of Jehovah.
Mm.
All throughout the Old Testament, you'll see Abraham built an altar and called on the name of the everlasting God. Genesis 21:33, right? Joel 2:32. Whoever calls on the name of Jehovah shall be saved. Here you have within 20 years of Jesus' crucifixion. Paul is saying, we Jews and you Gentiles, when we gather, we're known for this practice. Wherever we are, we all come to do this. Call on the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. So, secondly, what would lead Greeks, Gentiles, to stop worshiping Zeus and Hermes, stop going to the temples and sacrificing, being imprisoned and killed for it, to call on the name of a Jew who wasn't even one of their own ethnically, whom they knew had been killed 20 years earlier? What in the world would cause them to do that? So we have a miracle in our hand. It's called the church. And the mass conversion of monotheistic Jews, and the Greeks were being killed because to not sacrifice to the gods would incur the wrath of the gods. So they would be afraid. Hey, you know you're going to get Zeus angry, right? You better. No. Zeus is Satan. We worship Jesus. What would lead Greeks to worship a Jew as their God? He's not even Greek. He's a Jew. Without the resurrection, there is no good answer.
I never thought of starting there with an atheist, to be honest with you.
Yeah, explain it to me. I'll be an atheist.
Yeah, I got you. So you don't go with Big Bang and who put the rocks and the gas there and all that
No, I
stuff?
mean, because that's been done. And yes, our existence itself is a testimony to an intelligent designer. You have to be taught not to believe God created this. But see, I just cut to the chase. I'll say, hello, I'll make it easier for you. I'm a sinner who struggles with sin. And I don't want to be answerable to Christ because I'm going to have to answer for how I lived. You would make it so easy for me to be disconvinced that the God revealed in Jesus exists, so I can now live the way I want, like a heathen, go stuff myself at buffets and not care. Explain to me the origin of the church. How did it come into being? Even atheists have to admit, there are several atheist historians. There are historians of historical Jesus. They all admit, yes, one renowned scholar, his name is Gerard Ludemann, and even Bart Ehrman. These are atheists, but they study the historical evidence. They all admit, yes, the followers of Jesus were convinced they saw him alive physically and that he's in heaven physically. And Bart Ehrman even gives some names. He goes, Peter, Mary Magdalene, and a few others did actually see something that convinced them they were seeing Christ alive physically and he's in heaven physically. But then they say, well, we don't know why they saw what they saw, but they did say something to convince them that God was alive, Christ, who's God in the flesh, was alive, and then put a fire on them to go preach it and convert people and die for it. Well, if they were hallucinating, then why didn't someone produce the body?
It's that simple.
Yeah, because the proclamation, here's what's so beautiful about Christianity. The proclamation of Christianity did not start in Rome. It started at the very place where Christ was killed, in Jerusalem. The last place you can get away with Christ being raised is the very place where thousands of people are still there who had either seen or had family members tell them, because they were there, Christ was killed and he was buried. The last place you're going to get away with that he's been raised is there. Because all they need to do is produce the body. But no body, right?
No
I
body.
mean, I can go into the arguments for the empty tomb, but I'm simplifying it.
Okay, so just watching you talk about this and many things, I see passion. Sam's a passionate man, right?
Because I'm an angry man. I came out of my mother's womb angry, so
No.